Sweet, man.
We're live.
Episode 1, Loopy Human.
Episode 1, finally, after
After 7
4
months or
months.
something.
Yeah, something like that. I think we started talking about this back in February, March.
Well, man, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, me too, man. Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, I want to start with a question since it's episode 1. What comes to mind for you with the title and phrase Loopy Human?
Loopy Human, man. It brings a lot, actually, I feel. Because if you think about it, what is Loopy? Loopy is crazy, chaotic, a little weird, a little, it's a little out there. Whenever you're talking about somebody, you're like, that guy's a little loopy, But I feel like it's a good metaphor for just life in general.
Yeah.
Because life is weird.
Totally.
It's strange, it's out there. And to be somebody who is living life and being in the world, that's what it means to be. It's being a vessel of the actual world itself and the craziness and interacting with the craziness.
Heck yeah. And kind of acknowledging that it's there and that it's part of humanity.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, it's it's definitely all of that. And I think I also coming from music production, it's hard not for me to think of loops, using loops or making loops in a song. So a lot of the first thing I'll do is an 8-bar loop for a beat or a song. I don't know if it's for the chorus or a verse section yet, really, but it's just can I get a repeating loop that's cool that then I can copy and paste and build off of and take away and edit and stuff. And I think that kind of denotes if I apply it to life and being a human, I think we're made up of a lot of loops. I mean, not just I think, right? There's just repeating cycles on big macro scales and on little tiny ones that are just, sunrise, sunset, just over and over the same, processes, our circadian rhythms, and it's just our rest cycles, our, all these things. And then habits, that comes to mind for me. It's just loopy. We can have loopy habits, not just in the repetitiveness, but in the craziness. And so there's kind of that question for me with Loopy Human of why do we do the things we do? And also what things are worth looping.
Right.
In some way. And then the other piece, I almost pictured if you look really close to a towel, I think it's called loop spun or loop thread. It's a way, but if you look real close, it's actually a loop coming out and then going back in, and then a bunch of those together. So it kind of makes me think of loopy, some Celtic knot, just the way it's everything's interwoven.
Interesting.
It's loopy, loops connect to each other.
Right.
We use loop as a loop as a fastener for things. I'm sure there's a basically infinite number of other ways too that'll come up the more we do.
And I feel that's why the name is so great, is because it not only represents what we think it means, but it can just mean so much more.
Yes.
To anybody else who's listening to this.
It's a little bit insurance of this is a big enough sandbox to go explore all the things we know we want to explore, and has room for the things we don't even know are coming yet.
Right.
It's a big enough container for that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question that, had COVID, and I don't remember if it was that. I think it was that week, needing to reschedule and stuff going on. And that day I wrote down some questions that were different. I took half of them. And the parts I took that I wanted to ask you about, so like you have this background in film and video.
Yes.
So the first question, which I know is it's like I'm tossing you a softball, and I want to hear which way you take it. Is like, what do you love about film and video? And with that, what distinctions do you make between film and video? If so, like if that colors how you'd answer it, like, well, I love this about film and this about video.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine there's some Venn diagram going on with your kind of meaning system. But yeah, like, what do you love about film and video?
I mean, it's interesting to me because, you know, growing up, when it came to the difference between film and video, for me, it's like film felt like a more of this sort of fantasy type world. You know, you go to the movie theaters, you're watching a film or you're watching movies. Everything is very, you know, fantasy wise taking place and heightened, taking place in this world on your TV. And video was more like your home movies. You know, your dad's shooting home movies on his video camera, or whatever. And so you watch those back, you're like, it's not that interesting. It's like I was there, you know, like
it almost looks less interesting than real life,
right?
Quote unquote, real life.
Yeah, and as I got older and more invested in the craft and doing it more, there really is no difference between the two, because people call films because it was shot on film, and people call video because it's shot on video, right? But what it really comes down to, and I tell people this all the time, especially people who are like, oh yeah, I've always wanted to be a filmmaker, but you know, I don't have, it's a big thing. I'm like, I don't have the equipment to do this. Like, I don't have
it's like you got an iPhone.
Whatever. Yeah. You got an iPhone. Every camera shoots like, I think iPhones shoot like 4K now. I think like the new iPhones
for sure
can shoot 4K, but growing up and the more you get into it, you realize there really is no difference to it. It's all about one common thing, and it's a story. Like the films you watch are a story, but also when you're looking back in the videos that your dad used to record, there's a story there because something was going on at that time. There's a reason why he was shooting that, right? Oh, there's a story. They were opening Christmas presents. Well, why were they opening Christmas presents? Well, it was Christmas. Okay. What were they doing that? You know, what happened before that or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something that stuck out to me. And, you know, now with YouTube and everything, if you wanted to say YouTube was more of like a video format compared to the overall cinematic experience of film, it's sort of, you know, it's very grand. It's very big.
Yeah.
Cinematic. It has a specific look to it. It has a specific feel to it. It has, again, it's that fantasy type world. Whereas if I'm shooting something for YouTube at home, it's gonna feel smaller in scale because I'm literally sitting in my office, staring at a camera, and you know, talking.
Static background, right.
And
there's like the composition of it, and yeah.
And there's a lot of effort that goes into films and cinema, and then with something like what I do here, I mean, there's effort that goes into it, but we're talking like maybe like 30 minutes of prep as compared to, you know, 6 months, a year, 2 years of prep for
and
a 6 month shooting day. And the scale of the team. Yeah. I mean, on a film, you're dealing with like
spend that long.
hundreds of people.
It's craziness and budget and that's the prep and then the shooting itself and then editing. So then you're also like length. I'd say length ties in, starts to color the like lines, right? Like most people don't just quote unquote watch a video for 3 hours. Unless it's like, you know, maybe you're really going in on a lecture or something like a hard skill you're learning and you've made your way to a 3-hour video and that's what you signed up for. But dang. Yeah. Okay. So two things I wanted to highlight that words you use. So maybe it's 3 things, but I heard you say tie into this like fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
and then you circled back to like Dad's home video, and you're like, there was a reason, a story, something was happening. So I thought, so there's like fantasy, and then there's capturing something that's happening that's maybe like different or notable in a different way than how we normally witness things happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I guess is like scale. But what do you feel like like why do you think those things, fantasy, and we'll leave out the third like kind of scale question, but the fantasy or heightened experience, and then this like capturing storytelling, why do you think that's important for humanity? And if humanity's too big, you can just say for you. Like, what's important about it?
Well, I mean, throughout history, we've always told stories. Like, it's how humans connect is through stories.
Yeah.
I mean, you're even early, cavemen with the paintings and the drawings or whatever. They're all stories. Stories passed down and lessons and life. I feel like stories are a way for us to be able to sort of navigate the world in a way based on people's past experiences, and it helps us sort of, I guess, yeah. I mean, I said navigate, but
yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It helps us. It helps us kind of figure things out, and
For sure. I mean, like a map. We use maps for navigation, and it's like it's a documentation of what has been found, and explored already. So there's that like past element of
right, and
this has happened. So let that inform you of like, quote,
right, because
where you are or who you are, or what is now.
Yeah, because stories are experiences. So something happened to somebody. Why did it happen to that person? How did they handle that situation? What did they learn from that situation? Boom. Okay. If that situation happens to you, this is how you can handle it. This is how they got through it. Or you pass that same knowledge down to someone else if it doesn't happen to you,
I love that. Yeah, it's funny too, because I think I've been challenged by, like my contribution as an artist to, and even when I've imagined, like when I've, grew up fantasizing about like being an actor, and then it's like thinking of the merit of different stories and characters, including despicable ones. And like, for me, this is where the fantasy element comes in. I'm fascinated by what we fantasize about, or what the stories that we dream up are, and why, and like what's the, I'd be curious, because I think everything you just said, you can definitely apply it to weaving fictional stories and inventing stories.
Well, I mean, even
But
inventing
like,
stories and fictional stories, like there's always lessons in them,
Right.
or there's
Right.
a message embedded within that story for somebody to pick up on, or whether it's something you're protesting about.
Yeah.
Like there's always messages and lessons embedded in the stories, whether they're made up or not. You can always find something.
What are some of your favorite stories? And they can be cinematic or a book or both. Like, I won't ask you to rank them because I hate doing that. It's too hard for me. But just like, ones that come to mind are maybe formative, or that are just, and it could be recent too.
Yeah. I do love So one of my favorite films growing up was Saving Private Ryan,
Oh heck yeah!
and I think I loved
Tessa
it
and
so
I
much.
we just watched Band of Brothers, which
Oh yeah,
Tom Hanks was involved. Tom Hanks and Spielberg. I got her into it, and she was like, "Okay, I'm in." We watched the whole thing.
Band of Brothers is dope.
Okay, but yeah, Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, and I think it's not just because of the visual cinematography in it, which is great, but the story of it is also great, and the characters are great, and their personal struggles.
What age do you think you watched
journeys.
that at?
Oh, dude. I was probably... I had to be like 9.
Yeah.
When I first watched it for the first time. And I think I watched it... It was on TV, and I think my dad was watching it. And I just started watching it with him. And I know that he's like, I'm not sure if you should kind of be watching this or whatever.
Totally.
But he let me, and it was like near the end of the movie, so it was like the final battle sequence, and when they're in the town and everything. And I remember I was just
before Matt Damon is really like, or they just got him.
They just got him, and they're supposed to secure the bridge.
Yeah.
So I remember watching that scene, and at the time, like I loved like World War II. Mm-hmm. Like, it was my favorite subject in class. I always played like the Medal of Honors and the Call of Duty video
Big
games.
Red 1, all
Big
that.
Red 1, yep. European Assault. So I loved it. So when I saw this movie, I was like, oh my God, like, what is this? So I watched that scene, and then when I got probably like a year or two later, I actually bought the DVD. I remember it was my birthday, and my grandma would take me to she'd give me like a $100 limit, and then she would take me to like a Toys R Us or wherever I wanted to go.
Which is like a lot, right? You're a kid, you're like, you're like, I can get a few pretty cool things. I could get like one video game and some candy. I could get,
But
like, I don't know, a new console game is like $60.
At that time, I had really hit like my film stride, where I was like, okay, this is like, I really like doing this, because I was about like 12 or 13 once I started getting into it.
I was gonna ask,
and so I was spending all my money on DVDs.
Wow.
Yeah,
you just watch. So you were consciously dissecting movies you were watching.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I had always been doing that growing up without even realizing it.
Same, dude. That's like, music and movies. It's just, I'm like, whoa, how do you figure out how to walk like that?
Yeah.
And, they got this, why'd they start with that scene?
Right. And the first movie I ever made that I can remember was an Indiana Jones movie. Because I loved Indiana Jones, and I had a Lego set, and so I had a little Lego guy that looked like Indiana Jones. So I was like, heck yeah. I can't remember what his name was, but he was like, it was based off of Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
but it wasn't Indiana Jones, probably for licensing purposes.
Yeah.
But I remember
it was indie.
Yeah. I had my dad's home video camera, and I was just bored one day. I think because we had moved, so I didn't have any friends yet. So I was trying to figure out how to curb the boredom. And I was just like, I don't know where the idea came from. I was like, I'm just going to use the video camera and make a movie or whatever. So I made it based off. You've been to Disneyland in California?
No, I've been to Disney World, but not Land yet. Yeah.
Okay. So there's an Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland. Sweet. And it was one of my favorite rides when I was a kid. And so I made a movie based on that ride, kind of based it around it.
I can kind of get the vibe, because I've been on the, I know it's a different genre, but like adjacent to the Pirates of the Caribbean ride in Disney, which the movie is actually based off the ride, which is kind of a funny thing. But yeah, so there you go. You based the movie off a ride, just like Pirates of the Caribbean. I based the movie off a ride. Yep. Did you make as much money?
I did not. I didn't make shit. No, but it was.
So this was like a camcorder. Was it a little tape? Was it a mini disc? Was it a digital?
Yeah, it was the little mini.
The little mini
tapes.
like a little tapes.
No, actually, no. I think it was the bigger ones. They didn't have mini DV yet at the time. It was the bigger, like
it was like a VHS.
Actual, not like VHS, like almost like a. Yeah, it was like a thick cassette tape.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. Really thick cassette tape. And yeah, I shot it, and it was weird how I shot it because I figured out a lot of stuff like angles, but the biggest thing that I couldn't figure out was like, okay, how do I make the Legos move by themselves without me being moving them across the screen or whatever. And I remember this trick my dad used to do with the camera where like we'd be standing in the camera and he'd record and then he would pause it and then we would like leave the screen or whatever and then he would record again. Then you play it back and it's like you vanished, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I wonder if I do that a bunch of times, but each time I just keep moving him slowly. You
just figured out stop motion without knowing.
I figured out stop motion without knowing what the hell stop motion animation was.
Dang. And
yeah, I just applied that to all the rest of the little Lego movies that I made.
That's crazy. You know what also strikes me is like you went into the Air Force, and it's kind of funny that Saving Private Ryan was like this simultaneous. I mean, you're obsessed with World War II, and a lot of boys were and are like, especially from what I speak to, kids I grew up with, like my best friend, childhood, like. He went on to go. I thought we were both gonna like go in the military together, and then I got old enough to the point where I was like, I'm terrible with authority, and I can't do this. But he stayed that course, and ended up going in. But I think it's interesting that it was like you kind of got a kernel of both of those in this memorable encounter with Saving Private Ryan. It was like the filmmaking, the power of storytelling through the movie, and soldiers and combat and war. And like, I don't know, I just think that's interesting. So then how many movies did you go on to make? Like just your own little movies from like 12 to, let's say, pre-film school.
Pre-film school?
Yeah.
I don't even know. I know a majority of them. I know like 3 or 4 of them were like Lego movies. And then I made some friends.
And then I made some friends.
Then I made some friends, and we made some movies. And
you convinced them to make movies. You were like, hey, let's.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
and
cool.
They weren't even really like movies. They were more just kind of like, I remember there was one I did with my neighbor where we were just playing like cowboys, and we were like sitting there like drinking beer at a table, and then we ended up in a shootout outside. There was no story to it. It was just
right. It's just like here are 2 scenes loosely connected.
Right, and they go outside and they just start shooting shit. So like that was it. I did a lot of that. I did a lot of that stuff, and then when I got into high school, I had a group of friends that I met, and we had a video production class in high school. And I met
started getting more serious, more like analytical and technical and like
learning how to
there's
edit
a greater craft
on the computer instead of editing in camera.
What was that? What'd you use then in the computer to edit?
I think we used Adobe Premiere.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
like
dope.
The old school Adobe
just like
Premiere.
OG Adobe.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So did you kind of then have in high school, like, were you like the geeky art guy in the group, or was your friend group geeky art guys like you?
No, I don't. To be honest,
you seem like if I just like armchair experted you like Dax, I'd be like, you seem, and maybe this is more from then military experience, but you seem like you learned how to fit in with jocks, basic cool guy crowd, and
basically
you have both. You got like both parts of you.
Yeah, I mean, I was nerdy. I'm not gonna lie. Like looking back then, I was like, oh my god, I was nerdy as hell.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like that, like geeky, like artistic nerdy. It was just like this guy's super skinny. He doesn't know how to dress well. You know what I mean? He doesn't know how to do his hair. But I was able to kind of fit within different groups. I definitely wasn't popular in high school. I had friends who were popular, but that's because I played sports with them.
Yeah,
we just happened to be on the same team.
It was easy for you to kind of like be in with enough people
to kind of
and
hop
float
around.
around. Yeah.
Like I had my core group of friends, and we were
same.
definitely nerds, but I was able to hop around and kind of be in the different groups if I wanted to be. But then there were times when like I get into a group and I feel like really like out of place, you know?
Yeah.
We were just like, I don't fit in with these people at all. And no
For
matter how
sure.
hard I try to fit in with these people, I'm just not gonna fit in
Just
with
not
these
gonna
people.
fit in. Yeah, or just like even be, for me, it was like just enjoy the things that they enjoy.
Yeah.
I would just, kind of get to that point. It's like, yeah, I can like fake it a little bit in school or in the group, but like they want to spend a whole weekend doing XYZ, and I just want to spend the weekend like just playing make believe or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Just like, or just hanging out, honestly, or just hanging out with my older brother and his friends.
Right.
3 years
What
older.
were you like in high school? Like I know you mentioned hopping around, but
Yeah, well, high school was so different for me because I left public high school in like after the first semester of my freshman year. So my older brother and I actually both switched to online school because we were just like, we want to study and pursue entrepreneurship and just work and make money.
right.
And we think we can, we both hated school. We both hated being at school. Like we loved hanging out with friends. Outside of school, he always in high, like beyond elementary school, my brother always, I think, did a lot better than me grade wise. I was just too social at school, and then I was very entitled about homework.
Yeah.
So it's like when I got home, I was like, that's how I thought it was. Like they took 8 hours from me or whatever already. Like however much time in a school day, it'd be like 7:30 to 2:30 or something.
Right.
And I was just like, I'm not gonna do homework. I just don't want to do it. I mean, so high school, like my social group was more, it was like my childhood best friend, Scott, who we never went to the same school. So we always hung out with each other on weekends, and we're used to like, we didn't see each other during the week, It was just like, yeah, just, hang out then. By high school though, I was really into like personal development and entrepreneurship in large part because my parents got into like, I don't know, just a lot of those books and like let me go to like a seminar, and they're like the classic, like they're super cheesy. There's all this hype. They like really sell hard to people to try to get them to buy like the next course,
Right.
all these things. And I learned a lot, and I was just like, yeah, it really is just a decision of what you believe you can make or the value you can add to the world and these kinds of things. So, yeah, but I mean, by 16, somewhere around 15, I figured out like I enjoyed writing raps and just performing them. And then by 16, I had like done several really bad songs on just like free beats that I ripped off YouTube and in Audacity on like a $30 USB mic on my HP laptop. And the recordings weren't for anyone to hear. They were just so that I could write and remember like how I performed what I rapped, like what I wrote.
Right.
And so that I could do it and lay it down and then move on to write another part and not keep it all in my head. And then, yeah, I mean, I was going to church. Like I was really active in a teen ministry. So that was like more my friend group in a Christian church. And I was doing that, just like goofing off with my friends and my brother and his friends and making mixtapes. Like that was, and I'd wake up. I was very like, I started journaling in high school and it started out not so much daily, but then like it became daily. And yeah, I mean, I was that like kid writing, detailed dreams, like I'm doing this and I'm going to become this and like, yeah, all this stuff. I mean, I thought I was going to be a millionaire by 18, like for sure.
Yeah.
Like I was completely, like you couldn't talk me out of that.
Right.
And I'm not. I did not become that. Though it's funny though, because I carry so much with me, and I've like, had different experiences, different failures, learnings about myself, the way the world works, all kinds of things. But eventually I just, I slowed down more and more. By 18, I was like taking the time to learn Logic to produce beats. And it was almost like, starting everything over. Because my brother and I had raised like $9,000 for a Kickstarter project, through a Kickstarter project for my first mixtape, which was just going to be a free mixtape. And it was. And we did that and made it. And then like I just worked part-time at the mall at a sports memorabilia store.
Mm-hmm.
I had different jobs. I sold honey at a farmer's market over the summer for one job. I worked as an overnight janitor at the Hyatt House Hotel. And I liked jobs where I could listen or talk to people or write. Like not talk to people for work. like be walking down the halls doing my job, with no one over my shoulder, and I can be like I remember listening to like 48 Laws of Power at 2 a.m. in the hotel while I'm like cleaning out maid closets, and taking the laundry and dishes down and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So I was very like, I was like dreaming and scheming a lot, and just kind of like figuring out how to rap and write. And just trying to absorb as much as I could about entrepreneurship and like the way wealthy people think.
Mm-hmm.
And how to invest, all these types of things. But it was like two parts of me at war with each other, because it was still so head in the clouds, like artist, and fantasizer. Like I made myself feel good by fantasizing.
Right.
Right. And it's like not the same as the Gary V type, who is just, oh man, I could sell that for $6 and do that in 10,000 times. Right. Or whatever the thing is, like, oh, these are hot right now. Let me flip these on eBay. And then just does that and isn't thinking about, oh, I'm going to have a massive audience and it's cool. Da-da-da-da-da. We were watching Wiz Khalifa, Big Sean, and Mac Miller, like just internet popping. Like none of them had deals yet.
Right.
And so that was really influential. Yeah, that's a lot. It's kind of crazy. It's like that was, I'm 27 now, so a decade ago.
Yeah. About like your music and stuff, you mentioned, kind of starting back with like Audacity and learning, how to rap and everything. How's your writing style changed compared to like when you started as to where you are now?
Oh man, that's a good question. It's interesting because I've produced a lot more on the music side of things, like instrumental, like compositions, beats, and everything. Mm-hmm. I've done that more than writing from like 18 to now. Then I did, or let me put it this way, from 15 to 18, I wrote more songs than I've written since I was 18.
Damn.
So I've written between 70 and 80 songs, which is like awesome for someone who's like not a pro, mm-hmm. like paid and like with a big audience and stuff. For the pros, it's like bruh, you need to, I've had to learn how to get, be in between those. But my writing has changed, I think what I read affects what I think and write, what I read and watch and my life experiences. So it's changed a lot. And I'd say originally it was pretty it was definitely like cornier, like corny, very playful though. I think I still like to make things playful. But more heady. I'd say I've gotten less heady. At least I try to be, because that part of me can get really strong, and it can be when you're, especially rap, right? It's lyrical, and if you can rap fast, it can be easy to automatically tend towards that, even if, so I think I check myself more, and I think being producer taught me that a lot, and also just helped disperse my creative energy into kind of this other part. So I come into the writing a little more chill and more strategic. Like I used to, also probably just nature being like an adolescent, just like from a beat, and I just wanted to go off on everything. It was like how I thought of it. And I was also probably more self-indulgent. Like I cared a lot more about just making myself impressed at myself than being like, how does this actually feel on the receiving end for the intended audience? And writing now, I was just thinking, I've been thinking this week of just how much there's so many things I want to write beyond songs too. So it's not even, it's, I think I also wrote with this, when we did this mixtape, Kickstarter, and then subsequent, I was like, I decided and committed to this overarching theme. And it was of I'm going to make transformational, empowering, positive, clean rap. Remember, I was this blend of kid in studying the Bible in a church community, and going to Secrets of the Millionaire Mind seminars, and reading Wayne Dyer, Wishes Fulfilled, and Think and Grow Rich, and manifestation books and all these things. So I wanted to put all of that into songs. And I think in that way, I don't do that anymore, but I've retained the values, so that hasn't changed. I keep that of what am I really trying to do here? Because I think I love stuff that's just for laughs and entertainment, or just because it's just dope and it's just a vibe and it feels good. But writing slow, it takes longer. I can produce probably 5 to 7. Nah, that's probably generous. 5. I could probably produce 3 if they're a lot harder, but 3 to 5 finished tracks, beats, instrumentals in the time it takes me to write and definitely record the lyrics for one song. And because of that, I think I've just gotten slower and more I only want to write something that's worth actually I had an old lyric. It's I only want to spit a written if it's worth reading. I don't want to just say things to say things. And so I've had a lot of ideas that I was just
Do you see yourself moving more into the production side of things and less of the writing?
That's a good question. I mean, for me now, I went from, I've learned how poorly I've operated as a solo entrepreneur. And in terms of really going from, I haven't done what you've done, Taylor. you spent years, like a couple years, working full time and consistently making and posting a quality YouTube video in line with a brand and a channel, right? Past, you're probably close to 300 videos now. And that was the piece I've always missed. And the reason I say that when you ask, do I see myself going more into production, is like, where I'm at now is stepping back and going, why, like, what is my creativity to me even? Like, who am I doing this for? What's it for? Because if it's like a hobbyist, then you can just do any creative thing whenever you're inspired or not, and you're fulfilling the purpose of a hobby.
Right.
If it's, I want to make the biggest influence possible on a specific audience, well, then it's more like, well, I don't know, like, where are kids these days? TikTok, right? So if it's that, I don't see stopping the production, and I don't see stopping the writing. Right now, I'm looking at, I have my coaching practice open for teaching people how to produce and make songs, and also just like have a creative mindset. But I stopped prospecting and like heavily going like, I need to make my living income from this, because I was driving myself crazy and I want to work with people. So like literally right now, I'm in the job market, and I'm looking for work in the impact space. Because the closest thing to college that I did was a social entrepreneurship accelerator in Boulder called Watson Institute. And that's where like most of my closest friends now, like they're all from that community.
Right.
And they're all, startup entrepreneurs, or they work for like cool companies, nonprofit. My girlfriend started a nonprofit. Both of our friends, different friends, we're going to the Broncos game tonight with. They've both started and run different nonprofits. And I care about that. So it's like these warring parts of me. And I don't know, man. I'm trying to figure out what to do with my writing next, and kind of how to recontextualize. But what I'm clear on lately is I'm taking the pressure off of myself to go, I gotta be great and make something huge, and I need to make a lot of money in it and do it fast. I think I still am holding on to the confidence of scale and possibilities that I cultivated from a young age in personal development and in spiritual faith. Like, I don't consider myself a Christian anymore, and some ultra kind of privileged white guy self-help stuff makes me cringe. And there are still great things in those for me that I use. And so I'm figuring it out, man. Like, I mean, rapping is so unique. It's so it's such a cool way to speak on something or to write. But not having gone to college, like, there's a lot of undeveloped parts of me in writing that I felt a continuous calling towards, like creative writing and like really sitting down, and like I'm interested in writing a screenplay, or writing a book. Maybe they're the same story, or just short stories. But then I look at TikTok and I look at what I've learned with music, right? And my brain, like, I want to do all the things, right? I was just watching. Did you ever watch Arcane on Netflix?
No, not yet.
It's okay. It's amazing. It's like, critically acclaimed, and I follow Tim Ferriss, and he does a weekly email of things he's checking out. And he loved Arcane, and his dream, like, that I think he's revisiting a little bit, I'm getting hints of, was like being a comic book like illustrator, or he loved to draw and stuff when he was younger. And he's a big fan of Arcane, and he shared, there's a 2-part, I was like 1.5, like 1 point, or like what am I trying to say? 2/3 through it before our call. It's the making of Arcane, parts 1 and 2, 30 minutes each. And just watching these teams of animators, storytellers, and then the OG music. And also it's from video. It's League of Legends world. So I thought that was interesting that it kind of, in my mind, and more every day with the way technology and fan bases and media and art are, like, you can get to any end from any beginning in the creative world. Like, you can write a novel and it might branch into this like amazing video game.
Right.
Or you can be writing a novel and you think it's writing a novel and maybe you don't finish the novel, but you team up with guys and you make this cool game. Or maybe it's actually you're writing it and then you're like, this is actually a short story. And then maybe you become a prolific short story writer, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're a hobbyist writer. And then you go on to just find a community of people who struggle to start. Like there's just so many ways things can go down. And I'm more humble and open to that, but also finding like, the little things add up. So right now I'm searching for like, where is my commitment level at with, posting a TikTok every week? Like, is that really what I want to do?
Right.
Or, do I want to just blog about things I'm reading and thinking? It's funny. Like, the timing for you to ask me that question is probably the most different response I could give compared to if you asked me that any time over the last 6 years, my answer probably would have been, probably wouldn't have been shorter because I talk a lot, but it would have been a lot more like in the same wheelhouse of, I just want to rap better. I want to write, I want better, I don't know, similes and metaphors. And I want to learn how to like I want to tell more stories.
Right.
Through songs and stuff like that. Whereas now I'm just like writing. I mean, writing it goes into every single industry and like creative art form other than, hand like pottery and like painting and things like that. And even then you could probably find ways. Yeah. Do you write? Like, do you have a relationship with writing?
Yeah. I mean,
of course you have a relationship with writing, but like, what is your relationship with writing?
Well, I will say that, like, even though I hated school so much, like, I hated school. I almost failed high school because I hated school so much.
I got my GED so I could finish it, by the way. I didn't tell that part of the story.
Yeah.
But I was like, online school was too much. I was just
I always seemed to be good at English. And for me, as far as like on my filmmaking side of things, like writing is like a huge important step. But it's interesting to me though, because I always see these guys who's like, oh yeah, I'm a writer, director, like I write my own films and I shoot them or whatever. And I'm like, that's cool, bro. Like, I'll come up with like ideas in my head. Like,
and then you'll talk them out with who you're working with.
Right. I'll talk them out with who I'm working with, or I'll go to sit down. Like, I think I've probably written in my life maybe like a total of 10 scripts, and they were never feature film scripts. They were always short film scripts. But
that's cool though.
I hate writing scripts. Like, that's the thing. Is like
when it comes into that format.
Well, just even like, then, like I have the idea in my head and I know what I want it to be. And then I sit down and I go to write, and I have maybe like that one scene that I've just put so much thought into, right? But then it's like, okay, great. I did that scene. Now, how do I connect everything else to connect to that one scene in order to complete a whole entire story? So, I mean, writing for me, I enjoy it. I like writing stories, and I do, marketing for
Right. So you write copy.
living. I write copy all the time, so it's always fun to figure out like the best way to do. Like this one thing we did is the gym I work for. They just launched an app, like their own app.
Yeah.
And so I was creating posters to promote the app with the QR code, so people at the gym could scan the QR code and they could just go to the store and download the app or whatever. But the fun part was trying to figure out what to say on the poster that wasn't
to get them to action,
to actually get them to do it. Not like, hey, check out our new app, like that's so like fucking basic. Like how, okay, cool. Like, yeah, let me check out the app. Like, what is it going to do for me? And of course it's got like all the features of what it can do underneath it, but there needs to be like that.
The call to action.
Grasping. Right. Yeah. There needs to be that grasping. And so I probably spent like a good hour trying out different phrases.
Yeah.
And which really inspired me actually was like, I can't remember where I saw it. I don't know if it was a TikTok or I saw it online somewhere, but it was talking about like the copy that Apple does when they launched the iPod for the first time. And they were talking about how their thing was really unique because it told the audience in a few words exactly what it could do in only a few words. So it was like, they came up with the example of like, they could have said like, oh, it's, you can download songs on it or whatever. And then like, you can listen to them and like the long extensive, but what they ended up doing on the ad for the copies, they just put 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Yeah.
Right.
And
so
you're just like, what? What is that?
Yeah. Because that captures your attention. You're like 1,000 songs in my pocket. Like, how is that possible? So I had that like idea in my head of like, okay, I want to do something that's like that where I'm not sitting here explaining.
Dude, did you just steal it? I would have just stolen it and done the workout equivalent. Like
1,000 workouts in your pocket.
Yeah, if it actually is that. But like, or like, all your training resources in your, I don't know. Whatever the benefit that's important to them.
Yeah, what eventually went on the poster was your fitness goals just got a whole lot closer.
Oh, sick.
And
good.
Then it had
nice,
the features
man. I like
on
that.
It.
I like
that. Yeah. I thought
dude, see, yeah, so I love jamming on these things with friends too, like helping them get the right words, or if I like, I love being the person, like if a friend asks me, or if it's, especially if it's a hard relationship, like, I got this text from so-and-so and I've been thinking of this and this is what I want to say, but like, I don't want to, and I don't really want to like get on the phone or whatever the thing is. And I'm just like, well, let's talk this out, and then like help them craft it. And maybe they'll show it to me and I'm like, I mean, this could come across this way if you send that. Like,
this is what you should say.
Yeah.
Send nudes.
Send nudes.
I love her. I love her so much. I just want to express my feelings about how much I love her and how much I want to take care of her. It's easy, bro. Easy. Just
easy.
Type send nudes.
Just type send nudes. You'll destroy this one. You'll recover, and I'll be entertained. It's terrible. No, but and it's usually like, it's usually saying the hard stuff, like not the happy things, or the like interested, or ooey gooey feelings. It's the like, how do I tell this person, like we have such different beliefs around this, and I feel hurt, or I feel pissed, or those kinds of things. So I feel like called into those diplomatic situations.
Mm-hmm.
But writing, man, I mean, I've journaled every day pretty much for the last like 12 years. And so it's interesting because I have the writing habit in that capacity. It's just that I think focus and commitment are hard for me creatively. And that's probably why I enjoyed and do enjoy songs, because they're smaller form.
Mm-hmm.
So, like a book, I'm like, I gotta really love that idea, but it's also just the practice of it. This thing of practice. I know we're at probably go another like 15 minutes. How are you on time?
I'm good. Yeah, we could do another 15.
All right, cool. I was gonna ask you what's a habit that would be transformative for you. Maybe you've like daydreamt about a specific habit, like, God, if I did that on a daily or weekly basis or something. Like, what is one of those that you haven't fully applied or gotten down that you've like thought about a lot?
Yeah. I think, to be honest, it's just holding myself accountable is the habit I have to do. Because I'm like you, right? I have all these ideas. I have all of these things that I want to do. Oh, I want to shoot films. Oh, I want to YouTube. Oh, I want to do this and that. But it's like putting the idea out there. It's like, yeah, I want to do it. And I go to do it. And then I'm like,
Right.
Don't want to do it. I want to move on to something else. So it's being able to hold myself accountable and be like, look, okay, no, you got to do it because you got I'll be honest right now with like YouTube and stuff.
For sure, right?
Like in the beginning when I first started doing it, I held myself very accountable because, it was new to me. I was doing it. I was starting to get views and everything. And I mean, YouTube is just like a very, very specific beast in itself because you don't realize what it actually goes into it. Not only like inner influences with you in your life, but with like outside influences as well. Because
it's connected to whatever's trending in the world. And
right.
What are people tied into? And something new might happen, like Russia and Ukraine, and it's just, I know that's not as much in the space of the type of videos you make, but still, I bet, there's big fluctuations in traffic and searches.
Right. And so it's the part of holding myself accountable to do the things that I need to do in order to reach the places. Because to me, I'm like the most patient guy ever. Like my patience, I can stand in line for 45 minutes and not be a dick. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm very patient, but when it comes to like the things that I want to do and the goals that I want to reach, I am not patient with those. I don't want to put in the steps to get there. I just want to be there.
Right.
Sure. So it's that accountability of laying down the bricks that I need to lay down in order to get to where I want to be. But I always want to do it quick. And if it doesn't happen quick for me, then I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Guess this ain't going to be it.
So why do you, is that, I was going to ask, why do you think, that habit of accountability, you haven't like instilled it as much as you want to? Is it, so you mentioned impatience about creative goals. Like, do you think any other reasons? Like,
I think it's
because also you did hold yourself accountable for the period that you have to like learn, like have the skills you have, like in making there's like untapped potential. Cause I know that feeling, that thought, you're like, gosh, I know I can do so much. I know I can do so much more. I can make more. I can create more and better. And why don't I hold myself accountable? So like, I'm curious about this stuff, with myself. I really connect to the patience point of like, that's so, I could totally relate. I'm the like, oh, well, okay. There's traffic. We're going to be late. Like, babe, we're going to be late. That's all right. That's fine. That's just is what it is now. And like, we're just going to sit, it's going to, whatever the thing is going to take the time it takes.
Yeah.
With the, I go through that same thing. Like, is this worth engaging if I don't get the feedback or or progress or success? And like, if I'm not doing it because I'm not seeing that, then what is my why for it?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm posing to you. It's like, why do you think accountability is hard in that?
I think because accountability or non-accountability has become such a habit. If that makes sense. Like, it's always kind of been that growing up, with school. People call it like lazy. I never did my homework in school, like it's just
Procrastinator.
lazy and procrastinate and
The
stuff
projects
like
that you're like, you're not going to get away with not doing. So it's like an 8-week project and you'll do it on like the last week.
Right. But then, so I think it has to do with that. And then of course, like, I think you think about it's hard to measure success because when you see successful people, you don't see the struggle that they went through in order to be successful. You just see them successful.
Yeah.
So,
and they've been in the struggle for years.
Right.
And they're just like, I work, like, what do you mean? Like, I work all the time. Like,
yeah.
And even the success that we see, that it feels different to them.
Exactly. And like,
they're like, I just want to relax.
And it's like your brain doesn't comprehend that, they see, so-and-so just got cast in this really big movie. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, well, where'd they find this person, But they don't know that this person has been for like probably like 10 years just like scratching away.
Yeah, at 5 auditions a week for 10
short
years.
films for students. And
Indie, like... Yeah, they pay you $100 for 3 days, like $100 in meals. Because I've looked on the backstage auditions. Like even now, I'm like,
bro,
God, you really gotta love this.
Shit.
You gotta. It's really messed up. Yeah, you and I both have that side acting. Like, oh gosh, wouldn't that be?
I keep telling you, dude, we gotta make a movie together.
I did. I just audited an acting class on Tuesday night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this was class in Boulders from 7 to 11 p.m. And dude, I loved it. Yeah, but it's like, the industry stuff. I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna go do the amount of auditions, all these things, and you gotta want it. Like, you gotta be so singular about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are blue collar, there are plenty of people, they work jobs and they audition and stuff, and you can, send audition tapes in and stuff now, but also you got to think about this. What happens if you get it? And it's just it's a small thing to build your resume.
Yeah.
And it's 3 weeks. And it doesn't pay great. And you want to do it. But you work a job.
Yeah.
It's crazy how it works. It's wild, man. Yeah, like listening to Matthew McConaughey's book and told in his voice, read in his voice, Green Lights this year. That helped me put things in perspective too, of just, it's different. And I really love doing life with a partner. And I think it's different when you're not, I don't know. It's like if we were both actors in LA going for it or something, maybe, or if one of us was like extra established and like, could just cover everything. But that's not reality, for me right now. And that was another reason I went into music instead. Because I was like, I can really do this from anywhere with the internet. And I can write and tell my own stories and things. But it doesn't like fulfill that same, because I love being across from a human being or with a group of human beings. Like in person, like that energy is unlike anything else. I also love the solo creative flow, but yeah, dude, I mean, I would love to make something together. I'm just, I think humility is a theme word for me this year.
Yeah.
Just humbled of, I used to just kind of, like I could do that. Oh, I could do that. Oh, I could be great at that. And it's just like literally a question I journaled to bring my focus to the present multiple times this week was, what am I becoming? What/who am I becoming through my actions today? Because that's it,
Right.
And those are the same hours everyone has to work with. So, if it's working XYZ, it's like, where are the hours at? What am I doing with them? It's like 2 hours of watching something.
Nah, I've
here
sat
and there,
down.
it's not so much, but shoot.
I've sat down and like looked at a day and been like, I wasted so many hours on this day of stuff that I could have.
Which is accountability.
Done, but I didn't.
To pat you on the back, like that is accountability. Also, this, I mean, took us till now, but we're here. Yeah, the accountability. Have you listened to Goggins? David Goggins' book?
Mm-mm. So,
do you know of David Goggins?
No, I've never heard of him.
This is the millionth time he's going to be talked about on a podcast, but
okay.
You should look him up. He was a Navy SEAL, and he's just done insane. He overcame, abuse and poverty and racism in all these ways. But he's a machine. Like the stuff he does with his body and the stuff he's put his body through, like ridiculous ultra marathon races on like broken feet, and just we're talking like over 100 miles, like an over 100-mile race, that kind of stuff. But he talks about the accountability mirror. It's like that's how he talks about the mirror with himself. And he's like, man, I get a kick out of these, all these people who will gladly like give other people their money to hold them accountable. These accountability coaches. And he's like, hey, if that makes the difference for you, if that's really what you need, but it comes down to like, can you be accountable with yourself? Like he just doesn't BS. He just hits it so on the money, and it's so true. It's that integrity piece. But I think without saying it, you touched on just kind of the sea of inputs. Just like we have so many inputs, and especially if like we work on a computer. Mm-hmm. Or if you make, building an audience or a craft or a business that's regularly connected to YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. It's like trying, I imagine it's kind of like how I imagine an alcoholic would feel going into like the dopest, craziest nightclubs and bars on a regular basis. Right? Like, because there's that, I need to create. And this is where I can reach. This is where I can share and reach. But this is also where I can fall into these consumption patterns. Mm-hmm. And it's guised too, because there's so much like inspiration, learning, all these things. That's what I can fall pretty. I love to learn. So, the fear is that I die with having learned and know so much more than I used and did and gave and created, right? Right. And that's why I'm re-questioning, some of these habits. These questions came, they're self-interested. I'm like, what's the point of making art? What habits do you think you need? Like to me, yeah, I think having some form of creative habit and creative flow is like one of my medicines. Mm-hmm. Because without some amount of doses of flow where I'm actually because when you're in the midst of it, right? Like you literally like aren't thinking of anything else, and that's bliss. But you're not focused on the bliss. You're just in it. Right. And then after the fact, you're like, wow, that was amazing. Before, it's usually like, I don't want to. Okay, I've got to do it. Yeah, man. What do you, if you were just like fully accountable with yourself, like let's just say I waved a magic wand and was like, boop, boop, you are now perfectly accountable to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel like a better, like, I don't even want to say the best use because you're doing a lot of cool and important things. Like, what's a shift that you think would show up in your days and weeks?
Probably, I'm probably making a lot more money.
As a result of?
As a result of just putting the effort into my creative endeavors, and putting in the work towards them. Because everything I do too because I enjoy it, but also in the back of my head is like, okay, how can I make money off of it at the same time? You know?
Yeah.
If I'm not gonna make anything from it, like, okay, like
then you'll do it when you feel like it. And
right, like you have your I'll do it when I feel like it, just as like for self, whatever. But most of the time I'm like, okay, I'm really good at this. How can I make money? How can I make money?
Right.
Out of it, you know?
Because it's also, you've done things that you don't like.
Right.
Or that you're less suited for that have been your money maker. And it's like, gosh, life is short. I'd love to spend more of the time doing the stuff that I like and making the money off of it. Yeah. And when you're not in love with it, you know, because it's not like I love every moment of writing and making music in this, like, gosh, I'm just psyched, you know, and this feels amazing way. But there's the other piece of, to me, it's unique contribution. Like, how am I uniquely equipped to create and add value? Because that also pays off with money, right? The more value you can add, the more you can stand to make.
Right.
So you'd make a lot more money. Do you feel like a word that came up when I pictured you was like, and for me too, it was courage. Because you strike me as someone where you're like, well, I would, you know, make more money, creative endeavors. It's like, I don't think you don't know what to do. Right. Or what works. I imagine sometimes that can be a problem if your mind is just, there's just too much noise.
Yeah.
But like, you know, oh, I want more clients. I got to prospect. Like, I need to generate leads somehow. I got to find. I don't know where, I got to find out where. And that's the essential thing. Like that kind of, yeah. So to me, I really relate to the accountability. And then for me, this other piece. So it's like accountability, courage, focus, and consistency. Because we know the consistency part, but the courage and the focus, man, focus is so hard for me. Like, I don't lack ideas, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not, it's not like, I don't know what to make an album about, or I don't know what to write, what I could write a book. I'm like, oh my God, what couldn't I write a book about? What couldn't I make you know? Do you relate to that? Like, in your day, do you find it hard to focus?
Oh yeah. All the time. Yeah. All the time. I don't think I've ever been able to just comfortably relax. Because if I'm not focusing on something externally, then it's gonna be other things. It's like a chaos in my mind.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's like people always give me shit because I'm always like, you know, one of those like leg jigglers when you're like sitting down and like,
fidgety.
You just fidgety and everything. It's because it's like if I'm sitting there watching TV and I'm fidgeting, I feel like I'm wasting time watching TV when I should be working on this. But then I go to work on this other thing and I'm like, well, fuck, I shouldn't be working on this. I should be working on this other thing. So then I go and work on this other thing and then I'm back at the TV again. And it's like this constant rotation.
Yeah.
And then even if I've done everything that I needed to do and I'm sitting in bed, just chilling, in my mind, I have stuff going on. Like, Yeah, just not chill. It's like in my
Yeah.
head, it's like, oh, well, we got this coming up. You got to do this tomorrow. Oh, or hey, I had an idea for this or whatever. It's like I remember when I started my YouTube channel, and I was probably about, I think I had like 2,000 subscribers at the time when I started it. I mean, this is still a thing to this day. And
How many months in do you think you were at 2000?
At 2,000?
Or were you over a year?
No, I wasn't over a year. I think I had hit about, no, I was at about 5,000, I remember. And this was probably about 4 or 5 months in to it.
That's big, man.
Yeah. Well, there was a point where I was hitting like probably, I was hitting around probably like 2,000 to 3,000 subscribers a month at one point.
Wow.
But that's because my output was just like, if it wasn't every day, it was like every other day.
Damn.
Now I can't hold myself to that level anymore because there's so much other shit going on. And it's crazy because I clear some of that stuff up and I'm like, okay, great. Like now I can do it this way. And then something else always pops up and it doesn't allow you to do it. But yeah, I remember I was at 5,000 and I was on vacation with my wife. We were in Tahoe. And I believe it was for our anniversary or something like that. We were just chilling. But in my head, I could not stop thinking about ways that I could expand my channel or new ideas that I could use
of course.
Toward my channel. Now I can't do that.
Did she call you on it? Was she like, babe, like,
yeah.
Or did you do you just kind of keep it up there and then like in your mind and you're just kind of like floaty, or are you also talking, saying it out loud?
I'm talking and saying it out loud. Like there's a point that's all I talked about was YouTube, and my friend and my wife hated me because that's all I would ever talk about. My friend's like, all you ever talk about is YouTube. It's like, that's all I ever do. It's YouTube. That's all I'm doing right now.
I think about
I have
what else
nothing.
would I talk about?
Yeah, I have nothing else to say. But it was at that time where I was like, okay, how can I expand my YouTube? What are some ideas? Like, oh, I could start doing live streams, maybe, or blah, 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 blah. Or maybe I create this type of content and I can put it on there. Now I can't do that with my channel. My channel's too big now. My channel, when I started my channel, I was like, you know what? I want this to be like the next MTV. Like that was my, I want it to be like the next MTV. I can't do that now. My channel's too big. Everybody's there for the reactions. If I don't post a reaction, nobody watches it, and it hurts my channel because the algorithm doesn't push it out. So anybody who's listening to this and wants to be a YouTuber, when you don't have a whole lot of subscribers, figure out where you want to take your channel and make sure you push it that way. I mean, I'm sure I could do it now.
Right.
But I'm going to lose a lot of subscribers and I'm going to lose a lot of viewers. And it's basically, even though I have like 38,000 right now, it's going to be like rebuilding a channel again, because you have to put in that time and that accountability again with that new content.
Do you think it would be... Yeah. No, I know you've thought about this wager. Like, do I just rebuild or do I?
I've thought about it for a long time.
Oh my gosh.
A long time.
Man. Well, I feel like we should find a,
I just do want to, I do want to say real quick though, to any of my viewers who are listening to this right now.
Definitely.
I'm going to bring you guys something new regardless. These are two for like the OG, like Taylor Roberts fans who
heck yeah,
like just like me spewing my bullshit. I'm going to bring you guys something new and awesome at some point, whether it may not be reactions anymore. It's going to be something else, but I will bring you some sort of engaging entertainment content in some way.
Heck yeah.
So,
and you know what? All the stuff you've done is there.
Exactly.
It's there, and the real like fans and supporters of people want the creator to be fresh and healthy and inspired too. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah, I think Logic's a great example of that.
Oh yeah.
And his fans, how he relates to them. Heck yeah. Well, dude, how would you like to close?
Oh man, I don't
We
know.
sh-
I've never closed a podcast before. I guess if you're
I had
listening,
an idea.
what's that?
I was gonna say you can say the thing you're gonna say, and then we'll count to 3, and then we'll both just make a beep, a short beep sound together.
A short beep sound.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I was gonna say, if you're listening, I don't know where you're listening at or whatever, if it's on YouTube or if it's on, make sure you subscribe, like,
Yeah.
comment, let us know your thoughts.
Share it with a friend.
Share it with a friend.
Or listen with a friend or spouse or
Yeah.
Remember.
Whatever. Of course, we'll be bringing you more content in the future.
And engage with us. Like, hit us up. Say, oh, I'd love to hear you talk more about this. Or anything like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Let us know in the comments if you want us to expand on anything we listen to on this one. And thanks for listening to our first podcast session.
This has
really
been
appreciate it.
Loopy Human with Christian Chamberlin and
Taylor Roberts.
All right, so 1, 2, 3.
Beep.